So earlier we discussed Tommy P's adventures with Sonny and Cher. Um, there's so much here that we could talk about with you, Mr. P, and I'm really at a loss for words some of the time. You had a question for our esteemed guest.
Well, yeah, this is a tale I've heard many times in my childhood. Oh, about Tommy P's childhood, and
Oh no.
it involves some dog poop and a house with rooms that go straight into each other, and a grandfather sitting in one of the rooms, and some Tic Tacs, and Robert Patton, and I would like you to elaborate.
Well, you've taken me totally off guard by this question. It's not something that I generally like to talk about because the childhood time was rough. We were very poor, and my brother was this was Bobby P, and he how do I want to say it? He was not always all there. And so being poor as we were, he would go out sometimes in the evenings and try to abscond with things that didn't belong to him. And he did this one evening, and he picked the absolute wrong person to knock on this person's door and then run away. And what he didn't know was that. I must tell you that we refer to this person as mean old Mr. Olson. And mean old Mr. Olson came out of his house and actually chased Bobby P down the street. And one of the things that one would think that one would do when being chased by mean old Mr. Olson is to not run into your own house. And Bobby P actually ran straight into the front door of our house at the time, a modest abode, because, as I said, we were quite poor, and ran straight through the house with my father sitting in the living room watching TV, and ran in the front door, straight through the house, and ran out the back door, and mean old Mr. Olson was following straight behind him. And it was a very unfortunate situation because eventually mean old Mr. Olson caught up with Bobby P, and the consequences were severe. And it's one of the more disturbing memories of my childhood. But as I said, we were very poor.
Do you have any stories involving yourself? Like, that's just one of my favorites, but is there...
And not really. I was a very quiet and studious child, and didn't venture out much. And it was only later in my my years that I kind of came out of my shell and became the the well-known personality that I am.
Well, I'm glad you did.
As we all are. We really are. Well, look at that.
I think I kind of left them speechless with some of those comments.
You really have. I'm not even really sure what to say next. Without hesitation, I would say that was one of the more interesting stories I've ever heard in my entire radio career.
It was interesting, and also somewhat sad in the sense that that it had it kind of colored my thought process for the rest of my life. And the moral of the story is, don't put dog poop on somebody's porch and run in your own house.
I would probably say that's a good...
I learned that lesson, and I've never forgotten it, and I've never done that again. But Bobby P was not the brightest bulb in the lamp.
Now, tell us about Doggy P's experience with dog poop.
I think there are certain things. This is a family show, I believe, and there are certain things that probably I shouldn't go into at this point.
Okay. I respect your
But I do want you
wisdom.
all to know that there is we have Willy P and myself, Tommy P. At home, we do have Doggy P, and Doggy.
Excuse me, we're having some radio interference here. The immortal Tommy P is being interrupted by some alien activity.
Doggy P is quite a nice doggy, and but she does have some unusual habits, and those are things we won't talk about. But she is a major part of the family, and she needs to be recognized as part of the group here this evening.
Well, you can't put it any simpler than that. We're going to get into some hot issues, some politics, some of the hard-hitting stuff next. We've been going easy on you guys. So we're going to get a little more music going. Meanwhile, we'll be discussing what we will be talking about. You're listening to the Galaxy Radio. This is the GURN-Factor. My name is... All right, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us tonight. We've really enjoyed having you on the GURN-Factor here on the Galaxy Radio. Remember, send your tweets in hashtag Tommy P. Buffalo. And we will get right back to you on those. Now, I believe the next segment on tonight's agenda was for us to discuss some foreign policy. Now, right here, my intern here, one of many of thousands of employees who are here to assist me during my radio show at any given time, he just handed me a sheet, and it's some of the breaking news about North Korea, and I think Tommy P. also is getting that information. What would you like to say about that?
Well, it's just one of the things that I learned today, which I thought was quite interesting about the great Republic of North Korea is I think that people might have heard on the news today, but not learned of all the details that the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, had his ex-girlfriend executed.
I thought it was his uncle.
It was his ex-girlfriend. Now, his uncle, that's a possibility as well, but the event that I heard about today was his ex-girlfriend had been executed. And rather disturbing, and we don't know the reason for it other than the fact that she was his ex-girlfriend. The other current event and that has come to my attention that I found rather disturbing was the random sign language at the services for Nelson Mandela, standing right next to our United States President Barack Obama, standing within a foot of him, giving random sign language during Mr. Obama's remarks.
And now, this is what it seemingly was interpreted as, but you were giving me your theory on what these signs were actually doing.
Actually, what I could interpret from the signs that he was giving during Mr. Obama's remarks was he was actually signing messages to Kim Jong-un of North Korea, congratulating him on the execution of his ex-girlfriend.
That is a twist. That reminds me so much of like a plot and a subplot coming together at the end of an episode of a sitcom.
Well, I don't think that most of the people, and I saw some of this on the evening news tonight, I don't think most of the people are as in tune with some of the more obscure sign languages that I am, and I could interpret his remarks as being directed directly towards Kim Jong-un in actually congratulating him. Now, what has come out that I have learned subsequent to this is that the signer actually was also previously a boyfriend of the same ex-girlfriend of Kim Jong-un. And so that they share a camaraderie, and I think using the specific North Korean sign language that he was using was a method for him to convey to the leader of North Korea that he had in fact done a noble thing, because apparently this lady, who was the ex-girlfriend of both of these individuals, was not perceived as being a terribly noble person.
I think we also need to consider the fact that it's common knowledge that last year, I believe, Kim Jong-un was named the sexiest man alive. So why this girlfriend, you see where I'm going with this? Like, how could she ever live up to him? I think it makes a lot of sense that she was executed in the end.
I suspect that's the case, because, and I mean, if we've obviously seen film and footage of Kim Jong-un, and it's hard to deny that he is
incredibly sexy.
Absolutely.
They call him Lil Kim.
Lil Kim.
Yeah,
that's correct. That's correct. So it's both tragic, but also interesting, and also I think the subplot of the tie-in with the services of the random sign language person at the services for Mr. Mandela was quite interesting.
Very, very interesting. And bringing that back all together, Tommy P, what would you say, now that we kind of have this information, we've got this scandal on the North Korean front, what would you say is their next move? Because this is a country with a pristine image. They can't have this on their plates. They're about to, they're going to the World Cup. They can't come into this with the blood on their hands.
Well, I don't think all the people necessarily, and particularly the World Cuppers, should be indicted for the for the actions necessarily of one individual, and I think that if we could really get inside the hearts and minds of the people, we would learn that they're probably a repressed but yet a great people and great supporters of human rights.
So eloquent. Radio feedback. So eloquently said by Tommy P. And here on the GURN-Factor, I'm going to go ahead and just give a shout out to Kim Jong-un. This next song's for you, Uni boy. Well, as the audience claps for Sting,
thank you very much.
Tommy P, what do you think of that tune?
I can't think of a more fitting lyric than every move you make, I'll be watching you, after we just had a long discussion about Kim Jong-un.
You said it right there, Tommy P.
I usually do. I tell it like it is.
Well, the night is coming closer to an end, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's been much too short.
Unfortunately, it has. Now, we had one more segment to come up with for the shows tonight, and that's what we were about to do.
I heard that you were recently abducted by a tribe of spacefaring Sasquatch?
Well, it's a little embarrassing to talk about this, but things like this happen. There are believers and there are disbelievers, but indeed, I was traveling down a lonely road not too long ago. Bright lights appeared in the distance. Vehicle of some unknown description appeared, and the last thing I remember is I guess the best way I could say it is being raised up into the sky. And when I got my senses about me, there were I wouldn't call them people, but there were beings who wanted information, information that it was difficult for me to provide to them, and I guess the irony of this is that I was transported to a place unknown, and lo and behold, I awoke after some unknown period of time in North Korea.
North Korea.
And I was face to face with Kim Jong-un, who removed this costume of sorts, and it turns out that Kim Jong-un was actually the alien who abducted me, and introduced me at that time to a person that he said was his ex-girlfriend.
This is remarkable.
There was a period of unconsciousness after that, and ultimately I was returned back to my vehicle on this lonely road, and subsequently learned that that this ex-girlfriend had been executed by Kim Jong-un. So that's a story that's rather emotional for me and difficult to talk about, but certain things need to be talked about.
That's quite an interesting little anecdote, and may I add that you cannot script such stories, because if all of these events had transpired and we had talked about all this, you would think it had been scripted, that we just were lazy writers and didn't come up with anything funnier, but this proves that this is real. This is real talk.
Hashtag real talk. Hashtag Tommy P. Buffalo.
Indeed.
We're probably going to be shutting down that hashtag for the rest of the night in just a few minutes here, so
don't ever use it again.
if you do, you'll get sprayed by buffaloes.
Oh,
spit.
Here's one. Tommy P., what do you dream about? Because I, as Willy P., can say that I have definitely had some interesting conversations with Tommy P. as he sleeps.
The barely waking moments are actually some of the more creative times of my life, and I have thoughts and visions, and things come into my mind, and usually when I'm fully awake, I don't fully remember them. But they've been some of my more creative times, and as Willy P. has stated, probably some more of my humorous times. But I don't remember all of these things, but I do kind of come awake in this semi-conscious state and of full creativity, and I think of many things, and it's how I've actually come up with some of the unique and novel and creative things that I've contributed to society over the years.
Such things that we have not even had close enough time to talk about. the marvelous works of Tommy P. and the wacky adventures of Willy P. Guys, may I just say this has been a wonderful night with you all. I hope you would all agree that this has been an exquisite evening.
Probably one of the highlights of certainly of my holiday season this year. All the listeners across the country and across the world tonight. I hope we've been able to impart some thoughts and some wisdom to everyone, and it's been just a delight for me. And I'm particularly happy that you chose to invite me to appear on the GURN-Factor.
It was a pleasure, as always, and the same with you, Willie.
Thank you. Thank you.